We all know that Myles Garrett is miles ahead of the competition when it comes to the prospects in the 2017 NFL Draft, but do the Cleveland Browns feel that way? We're about to find out in less than a week. Brendan Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedque. Myles Garrett, how dumb would the Browns be if they pass up on him?
Well, if the Browns pass on him, they just prove that they're still the Cleveland Browns, that they are still located in Cleveland, Ohio, that nothing is changing, and they continue to do the same repetitive things. Now, here's the thing. I mean, quarterback is always going to be a consideration for the one pick. It doesn't really necessarily matter about talent. If there's a need there, quarterback's always going to be the thing because everyone's going to say, well, if you have a quarterback, you can make things happen, which to an extent I understand. But in this year, I don't think that the difference between Watson or Mitch is really that large. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say the Browns could get either one of them at 12. So you take Myles Garrett. I mean, he's probably the only potential Hall of Fame level caliber we even have in this year's draft. And then you worry about whatever you get at 12 from there.
Yeah, my logic is like you can take Garrett at 1, and then if you really want to, you could trade up to get Trubisky. It's not like these quarterbacks are, obviously they're not the greatest thing. We don't even have them as like first round talents. So it's unbelievable to me. So they passed on Carson Wentz last year. And this year, they don't want to pass on Mitch Trubisky potentially. And they're going to pass on Myles Garrett. It's just like, what is this franchise doing? Anything that is just trash, that's the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
I could be the Browns if they did this.
And the way I think about it is if I'm Cleveland and I'm sitting in that draft room, I'm saying let's not let our past sin of passing on Carson Wentz screw us right now. Now, with all due respect to Eagles fans and Carson Wentz, the guy's not Joe Montana. I mean, he's played 1 year in the NFL. So, we don't definitively know is he a superstar. He certainly is moving in the right direction. But if I'm the Browns, I'm pretty much saying whatever happened last year, throw it out. Whatever happened the year before, throw it out. Worry about what's right in front of you right now. Worry about what talent is on the board at the one pick. Who's the best player? Myles Garrett. Let's move on. Let's make the pick, and let's keep moving.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to do the show a little bit differently because Brendan's got some graphics, and they're awesome. So we're just going to quickly run down the top 5, and then I'm just going to let Brendan just kind of take over. You got some really, really good information that you have to pass along. So my top 5, I got Myles Garrett number 1. I got Derek Barnett number 2, Solomon Thomas number 3, Charles Harris number 4, TJ Watt number 5. So I just went quickly through it. I'll get into them a little bit later. But now, Brendan, it's your turn. Steal the show.
Let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead, guys, and I'm going to screen share today. And let me start sharing my screen. And Adrian, let me know. Are you seeing my screen right now, bud?
You're good.
So, guys, what I wanted to do today was talk a little about the different techniques. One of the things we're going to hear all the time, especially this time of the year, when we get into the NFL draft, you're going to hear all these experts say, this guy, he can play the 3 tech, he can play the 1 tech, he can play the 0, he can play the 9. And honestly, I think something that most people don't do in life is ask for help or admit they don't know something. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to kind of explain some of these techniques to you guys. And I think that might be a little more helpful for you guys to have a better understanding of how these players are evaluated. And this is so important with the defensive line and edge players because unlike any position in the NFL draft, no position is affected as much by a team's scheme as the defensive line and edge players are. So I think that's a really important thing for us to talk about here today, guys. So what I kind of have set up here, guys, is a basic outline for what a 3-4 team looks like and sets up in. So if you kind of look here, I use the purple and black like the Baltimore Ravens are famous 3-4 team. So if you look here at the 0 technique, this nose guard in the 3-4 pretty much lined up at the 0, can line up at the 1 shade. This is going to be a stout guy who's really going to be able to pound on that center. You're not necessarily going to ask him, to make a lot of sacks. You're not going to ask him to make a lot of tackle for losses. His job is really to command double teams and win at the point of attack so these linebackers can run free. For years when the Ravens were really good, they had a really good nose guard, which allowed Ray Lewis to run sideline to sideline. That's why Ray Lewis made so many tackles. Now, with our ends, Typically, ends are going to be head up on our tackles, usually in a 4-tech, maybe inside of a 4-eye or a 5, depending on how we're kind of lining it up. With our backers pretty much lining up, we call it a 20. When you're lined up head up at the 2, but you're not on the line, you add a 0. So the Will backer and the Mike backer both here are in 20 techs. And then our outside backers, they could be anywhere from a 6 to a 9. Now, if you remember a couple years ago, the Eagles got really, really big in running that wide 9 technique. We kept hearing that in the 4-3. What they essentially were doing was they were still running a 4-down lineman, but their edge players, or in the 4-3, their DNs, they were widening out as if there was a tight end there. So they were getting a real sprinter stance to get some speed. So this is kind of how a 3-4 team looks, especially when we're looking here. A lot of times the size of your D-line needs to be much bigger in a 3-4 versus in the 4-3. So looking here in the 4-3 and those Eagles colors we got, with our D tackles, we kind of have a slide up front up here, meaning we're slid to the left. So our D tackles, one's in a 2-eye, one's in pretty much a 2 or a 3, depending on when he shifts. And our ends, we have pretty much both 5s. Our Will backer, he's pretty much going to be in a 7. Our Mike backer, he's going to be in a 10. And our Sam backer, he's pretty much going to be in a 30. So that's kind of a quick outline, guys, for how these players line up. What I wanted to do here was just kind of take this quick opportunity to give you some education, guys. And now let's dive in and look at how I have my players ranked. Okay? So off the top here, Myles Garrett's a dude, okay? Myles Garrett is one of those guys. He is scheme versatile. Whether you're a 4-3 team, a 3-4 team, Myles Garrett's going to be able to play that front. What I also have here is I put the school's logos, guys, to kind of show where his going to be best used is the larger logos. The smaller logos is maybe something that he can do, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think he's really going to be successful. So Myles Garrett, his biggest thing is the ability to win the pass rush and do a really good job in the run. So I wouldn't waste Myles Garrett and throw him in a 0 technique and just say, hey, be there and eat up blocks. That'd be kind of a waste of his skill set. So to me, Myles Garrett is my number 1 edge player. But honestly, Myles Garrett, he's scheme versatile. So if a 4-3 team took him, they said, hey, we want you to be like Fletcher Cox in a 4-3 and just rush from the inside, Myles Garrett can do it. So he's scheme versatile. He's my 1, no doubt in my mind, whether we're looking inside or edge players. Now, when we get to more of a true edge player, I have Charles Harris as my number 1 rush guy. Charles Harris, the thing I like about him, he's only started playing football when he was a junior in high school. So he is a little bit of a late bloomer. And as you'd imagine with late bloomers, he's not necessarily as physical as you would like in the run. That's a big, big concern for him. He gets moved pretty easily in the run game, but I think he has probably the best set of pass moves, which is the reason I have him as my number 2 edge player. Now, where does he fit? I like him more as a stand-up outside backer, i.e. being able to play in the 7, 6, and the 9 techniques, more so than as a down defensive end. Could Charles Harris do it? I think he could, but right now he's sitting there a little light in the pants, about 250. So he's a little light for me to be comfortable, and he's not super physical, which makes me a little bit concerned at him going down, putting his hand in the dirt, and playing the 4-3 as a DN. I think ultimately Charles Harris, he'd have more success standing up as a rush linebacker. My number 3 edge guys I have is Derek Barnett, and honestly, it is right a hair between him and Harris. These two guys, they excel at the same things. They struggle at the same things. I put Harris a little bit ahead of Barnett only because he's playing the game less. So I'm thinking, okay, Harris's upside might be a little higher just because I don't know what else he has to grow. Barnett, he's super productive, but the flip side is he, like Harris, struggles in the run, and he might be capped out right now with his skill set. Same thing, though, for where he fits. I still like him playing more of the rush end. Similar in weight, Barnett's a little closer to 260, so he could be move inside a little more and play in the D-end role. So if you're a 4-3 team, I think your value is probably a little higher in Barnett than it is in Harris. But Barnett's my 3 edge player. When I get to my 4 guy, I put in Takkarist McKinley. Now, Tack, I think he's pretty set forward. He's going to be a 3-4 edge guy. I don't think he's ever really going to come inside and play head up as a D-end. And the thing I like about Tack is He's not super athletic like Harris or Barnett. He's very athletic, don't get me wrong. But I think when you look in the combine numbers, it showed that he wasn't the elite athlete those other two guys are. Now, Tak's more of a physical edge guy. Guy like a Tamba Hali, he's not necessarily going to, beat you with speed off the edge. But like Tamba, he really got better as his pass rush hands improved, not necessarily his get off. So Tak's my 4 guy, but again, I think he's pretty much exclusively a 3-4 rush guy. I'm sure he could, put himself in the D end, but if I'm a first-round team, I'm not taking him in the first round as a 4-3 thinking, okay, well, now I got to teach him for 2 years. In the first round, you got to come in and be a starter, and I think the only way he's a starter is in a 3-4. The next guy I have here is TJ Watt, okay? Now, TJ is a little bit unique compared to the other guys here. TJ, I think, is a great 3-4 outside backer, but not necessarily as a rush guy, more as a cover man. Can he make tackles for loss, sacks? Absolutely. But that's probably not going to be his game. The other thing that TJ could come into is TJ could come inside and play a Sam backer in a 4-3, or even maybe an inside backer in a 3-4. Ultimately, I think TJ, if he gets drafted by a 4-3 team, he's probably going to play the Sam backer in the 4-3, who's going to be doing a little more stunts, tackles, similar to what Hassan Reddick is going to be, but I think Hassan's future is even more inside than it is as a rush player. But I think TJ, he's going to probably be playing a Sam backer in the next level, but he could play a 3-4 outside backer as well. The next guy I have here is Taco. And of all the guys in the combine and with the pro days, Taco was the guy who kind of slid the most. Now, I still think Taco's probably going to be a late first-round pick. I think about teams like Atlanta or Seattle if he's there. Those would be steals for him to get to, or maybe even New Orleans at the 32 spot. Taco, I think, is a guy who, when we look at him in the NFL, I think we kind of flip him compared to some of the other guys we talk about. Taco is probably his future is going to be putting his hand in the dirt and being a true 4-3 D end. His athleticism was a little bit of a concern for me, and he's not physical enough like Tak to win off the edge. So I think he needs to come inside and be more of a true 4-3 D end. Could Taco stand up? Absolutely. I'm not dismissing that. But his lack of physicality concerns me, and his lack of athleticism concerns me even more for him to stand up as a 3-4. I think Taco, he's ultimately going to have to come and be a true D end and really learn to get nasty inside. Jordan Willis is one of those guys that I wanted to kind of make sure we chatted quickly about here. Jordan, the thing that really jumps off the charts for me is, the 40-yard dash isn't really something that matters a huge deal with defensive ends and defensive linebackers. It's important, sure, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. But what is really important is that 10-yard split. You'll hear a lot of times guys say, what's the 10-yard split? And that's vital. Getting under a 1.6 is something really special. Jordan Willis, I think his came in at a 1.54, which is putting himself at the levels of like Reggie White and some elite guys like Bruce Smith, what they are able to do. The problem with Jordan Willis, he's a one-trick pony. He wins almost exclusively on speed. So Jordan, he's probably going to be a guy going in the second round, I would say early to mid-second. But if he could go somewhere with already established pass rushers and he can learn hand usage, he can learn using speed to power, he could be a guy who's really, really special. But right now with Jordan, I really like him much, much more as an outside end rusher than a true D end, mostly because he's a speed guy. I wanted my speed to be standing up and being able to sprinting stance, not with his hand in the dirt, seen in this photo here. I think ultimately for Jordan, he really, really needs to be developed. But if he develops well, he could be the guy we're talking about in 3 to 5 years as the biggest winner of this draft. Now, I want to give you one sleeper, and that's kind of why I throw the don't sleep logo up here. Okay, and my sleeper, guys, is Carl Lawson. Now, Carl, like a lot of guys we see this time of the year, major injury concerns. So if you're a team, maybe looking to draft for the future, i.e. you're a team like the Ravens, or, you're looking to kind of replace a elite level pass rusher, Terrell Suggs, who's, a little long in the tooth now. Carl Lawson is a great guy is a great guy draft. I think of all the guys in the draft, he's one of the best guys at converting speed to power which is a huge, huge thing. But there's no way Carl Lawson's putting his hand in the dirt. Carl Lawson, his biggest red flag is his injury concern. So I'm kind of going to use Carl Lawson more sparingly as a true rush guy and let him earn his way into becoming a solidified starter in the league. Carl Lawson's a guy probably going late second, early third. But if some team really falls in love with him for when he was healthy, he was an elite level pass rusher, I could see him going higher. Talent-wise, though, and his medical history, I would say late second, early third is a great spot for Carl Lawson. So that's it, guys. That's kind of all of my my education I wanted to kick you with today. What I'm going to do is we're going to screen share it later, and we're going to talk a little more about inside guys. So, Adrian, give me some feedback. What did you like there? What are you kind of feeling about those guys?
Depth. Dude. All right. So the one name that I'm curious about is Solomon Thomas. And the reports I keep hearing about him is teams are concerned because they don't know where he fits. What's he going to be at the next level? Can you talk about him for a little bit?
Yeah. So Solomon, I think his big future is a 4-3 D tackle. Fletcher Cox kind of.
Okay,
role.
so you put it inside. Yeah, see, I didn't know where to rank him. I didn't know where to put him as a DN or inside. I put him as an edge rusher here, but I can see him being like a 3-4 DN.
Yeah, that's very possible too. I mean, the reason I kind of held him back from being an edge player is he's got a little shorter arms than I would have liked, and he actually did exceptional in the NFL Combine with 30 reps on the bench, which made me think, you know what, he definitely can come inside and be physical and powerful.
Yeah, it's like the complaint is he's a little bit of a tweener. He's like almost a little bit too small to play inside, but too big to play outside. And the other thing is he's a motor guy. So he's a guy that's going to go out on every play. He's tough. He's physical. So I do kind of see him more inside. I actually kind of agree with you after thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Justin Smith or Michael Bennett were the same kind of label when they were coming out, tweener. What do we do with him? He's a jack of all trades, a master of none. I mean, I think a team like San Francisco, if they were really convinced on moving to a 4-3, and they took Buckner, recently, and they took the other Akey Armstrong, and now if you add Thomas can come in and play the D tackle and let those two guys on the edge. They would be drafting a really, really good spot. I think ultimately his future is in a 4-3 D tackle role, though, but could play, certainly a DN role too.
Let's talk about Derek Barnett a little bit. Eagles are picking at 14. Barnett is an option, I believe. Yeah. I like his initial quickness. That first step is exceptional. He's got moves. He's got counter moves. He's got a lot of moves. Sheds quickly. So I think he would be a great fit for the Eagles. I don't know if he's going to be the guy at 14, but he's certainly an option, I think.
I certainly agree with you. The names that are kind of linked in that round or that area is Takkarist McKinley, Harris, and then Barnett. As far as being
Harris is like really rose.
Harris is really, really rose. Now, right in that area, you have the Colts, you have the Ravens, you have the Eagles. All three of them could say, you know what, if a pass rusher gets here, we'd be interested in it. Now, Colts and Ravens are 3-4 teams. So Harris makes a lot more sense. Takkarist McKinley makes a lot more sense. Barnett, him putting his hand in the dirt like he did playing in the SEC and has experience in it, he's the guy that would really make a ton of sense for the Eagles. I'm not saying if Harris is there, if Barnett's gone and it's Harris or someone else, I'm saying, oh, don't take Harris. I just think scheme fit. I think Barnett would be a much more productive player next year in a 4-3 than putting Harris and trying to say, okay, now we're going to teach you to put weight on your body and now play down on the edge.
Absolutely agree. 100%. So, yeah. All right. I don't really know what else to talk about. I mean, like, what am I supposed to say after the shit that you give? Like how am I supposed to give scouting reports? You already give everything. You gave everything.
I'm the worst. That's why sometimes it's better if you just kind of lead off and I'll just clean up sometimes.
Yeah, I just kind of gave my top 5 and just let you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. TJ Watt. How good can he be? What's he like?
I kind of feel bad for TJ Watt because
he's JJ.
Exactly. It's just kind of like a jerk move, People are always going to be like, oh, well, you're not as good as JJ. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry I'm not one of the best defensive linemen of our generation. My bad. So TJ, though, I mean, he's one of those guys. I think he's probably going into the 20s and later. Honestly, and this is not even for bloodline ties, for the sake of Houston, I really hope Houston doesn't reach and take a quarterback there. I hope Houston says, you know what, let's wait and let's take a guy later. But getting TJ there would be a really, really nice add. You would have Merciless on one side, TJ on another, Clowney, and then, of course, JJ. I mean, you would have a elite rush. He's a really, really good player. I think his thing, though, is I think he's probably going to be a little more of a coverage guy, more like Hassan Reddick than a true edge player. But, TJ, I think, still is in that edge conversation. I think he's probably a little better of an edge rusher in the next level than Hassan. But Hassan is a much, much better prospect, but he's more of a true going to be inside backer, I think, in the next level.
Yeah. All right. By the way, I did not know about your screen shares before the show. So, I mean, I knew about you had screen shares, but I didn't know what they were going to be about. So for the viewers that are watching this, I had no idea this was going to be so awesome. So the other thing I want to talk about, because when you were going against, you were talking about Myles Garrett, and the whole time, that graphic, all lined up everywhere, I thought of Khalil Mack. And I just remember Khalil Mack being lined up sometimes over the, as a nose tackle over the center. He lined up, out wide, lined up inside. I mean, they have him lined up everywhere. I mean, obviously, as a rookie, wasn't he? He was both like a first team outside linebacker and DN, or is that all pro last year? I forget what it was.
All pro as an outside backer. DN.
There you go. Yeah, all pros outs. That's what it was. So it's extraordinary that how versatile he is. And when you were doing that graphic, I was thinking Khalil Mack the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he brings the same type of level of versatility there, which is extremely rare in the NFL, but that's also what makes him so valuable. A guy, if he goes to Cleveland, like we all hope makes the most sense, a guy like Emmanuel Ogbah, the opposite defensive end who will likely play away from him, should be the double-digit sack guy next year. Myles will probably get like 5 to 8, and people are going to start saying, "Oh, the boss." No, because people are going to start sliding their line, and now Emmanuel Ogbah, he should be winning one-on-one backside. And then, of course, if you add Jamie Collins over on that side, he should be close to another double-digit sack guy. So that could be a really, really special situation for Cleveland to kind of get some versatility, especially if they keep Danny Shelton in there at the nose to at least pull one guard coming his way. And for Cleveland, this is a very, very good situation because you could start to become very, very creative, like the Raiders are, like the Seahawks are, like the Chiefs are, with their multiple defensive linemen.
Yeah. All right. Pro comparison. Does he kind of remind you of Khalil Mack? Who does he remind you of?
Khalil, I think Khalil's a little more of a true edge.
He's just an athletic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of a thing for him. A lot of people are throwing out, he reminds me a lot of Julius Peppers, and I think that's fair. But I never really watched Julius Peppers really rush from the inside. Not that he couldn't do it. I just don't remember seeing it. Clowney comparison is very, very fair. I would say it might be closer to a J.J. Watt, the way his motor runs and the way he is running. He can rush from the inside. Clowney, I think, comparison is another really fair one too. But he's a special, special talent.
Yeah. All right, that's about it. You got anything else you want to say?
That's it. I mean, we're going to see him on the top of our inside players, and we'll chat more about that next.
Yeah. It's like the Jalen Ramsey thing I did from last year. I had him ranked as my number 1 cornerback and my number 1 safety. So there you go. All right, that's Brennan Albert. I'm Adrian Fetcu. You've got more graphics coming.
More coming, guys.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Awesome.